Back live right here on Sports Scene on News Talk 1650 right here until 1 o'clock. Greg Bicouvaris on your home for the Ravens as well as the Admirals as well. And, of course, when I was at George Mason as a student, my senior year I did color commentary on the radio network. And back then, of course, well involved with Navy into the 90s was Dave Johnson. You've seen him on Home Team Sports, Comcast Sportsnet, the voice of the Wizards, as well as the DC United soccer team. Dave Johnson, how are you, my friend?
Doing well. Getting ready to get back from this break and get back at it tomorrow because it's 31 games and it's been a season that was not expected the way it's gone for the Wizards, and so let's hope it goes a little bit different the final 31 games, and we'll see what surprises are left. The Wizards in a position to secure a third straight playoff berth, but it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, let's go ahead and pick your brain about that first. And I guess after the break, you start thinking about not only the Wizards, the final several games, but also you're very involved in soccer, and soccer kind of stretches in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, almost to the fourth quarter.
Yeah, no, DC United, in fact, next week I'm not involved with that game, but they're in a Champions League game in Mexico, and the Major League Soccer season is even longer than baseball, and who thought that would ever be possible? So it starts in March, so they get right back at it, and it's been a wild journey with DC United, 20 years now, and I look at the length of the season, it actually is. It's something I never thought would be the case, and I've seen it into the playoffs in the fall. I thought, well, if they stretch the season too long, there's the other sports going on in the NFL, and they won't have the crowds. But the crowd's been great, and it's really been they've developed a fan base, and the fan base has grown to points that I didn't even expect. And I grew up with the sport and continue to be amazed at just what a soccer country we have become.
Yeah, especially in the fall when you have all of them mixing together, especially in September. You got hockey, you got Orioles, you got Nationals, you got Redskins, you got Caps, you got Wizards, you got DC United. But it seems like the Redskins, before we talk heavy about the Wizards here, supersede any of those teams until their season's over because they don't make the playoffs that often.
Yeah, no, I think the Redskins are still the big team, but I think what's in the case of DC United and certainly soccer in general, it just the market is there, and it's its own market, and when you see into October, November sellout crowds in New York, 27,000 for the Red Bulls, and certainly New York has every sport you can think of. So it's where soccer is right now. It's no longer when's it going to make it in this country, or it's here. And it's a part of the sports landscape, and it's carved a very strong niche, and it can coexist with the big guys, the more established sports, and that's something that I did have a doubt about, but it's certainly been proven out now that back in the 70s and 80s when there was the original North American Soccer League. They used to get the season done, everything, by Labor Day because they wanted to get out of the NFL's way. And now, it's not about competing with the NFL, but it's about they do have a share of the marketplace that responds, and they can survive on their own.
We're talking to Dave Johnson, the voice of the Washington Wizards on the radio. Greg Bicouvaris, glad you're with us on Sports Scene on News Talk 1650. Also, tunein.com. Type in WHKT, and also invite our listeners to listen on radio.net as well. And that's the whole landscape of broadcasting. It's totally changed since when you and I were growing up. It was just traditional radio and TV. Now there's so many platforms, Twitter, Periscope, YouTube. We can go on and on, Facebook. I mean, just so many ways to connect with the fans. And like we mentioned, when this show right here is heard on TuneIn all over the world, and pretty much all radio stations are. It just gives everybody another vehicle to promote their product.
Yeah, no, it's radio is the most personal of mediums, as I've always said, and it's also the most adaptable. I mean, it fits in with all this new technology as we're as I'm talking to you on a cell phone, people are using their cell phones now like they used transistor radios when we were growing up, and you could use, we have it with the NBA apps, or you can listen on the Washington Wizards app if you're within 75 miles of DC, or we have a Wizards radio network that goes from Pennsylvania to North Carolina, and you can listen in more traditional ways. But again, radio, it's developed into the amazing thing on the radio with the Washington Wizards. We call it the hashtag Radio Party, and it's something where a couple of years ago we threw out our Twitter handles. Pardon me, mine's at Dave J Sports. My party, Glenn Conso's at GC Talks, and we said, hey, if you want to thoughts on this or you want to connect, go ahead. And next thing you know, people started responding, and by the end of the 2014 season, someone near as we can tell, there was a listener who goes by the handle Nat's Natitude, said, this is like a party, a radio party, where fans, while they are listening to the game, connect with me and Glenn or connect with other fans, and started using that hashtag Radio Party. So it wasn't even something that we created. It was something that was organic, that was created by the fans, and now it's great every night where we have listeners from Hawaii to God knows what they're doing, and they connect. And then again, it's part of what makes radio so personal. If you think about how people listen, or maybe they're listening right now, they've got us in their earbuds, and you can't get more personal than me, and actually in somebody's head, or they're driving the car where we're basically in the front seat with them.
Sure.
And so, this is a situation where Twitter, one of the newest forms of media, marries with radio, one of the oldest, and it's just a lot of fun because, again, that's the thing about radio. It is something where, as the listener listens, they feel connected to the person they're listening to, and the ability to reach out on Twitter and connect and then get a response, it just verifies that connection.
Sure does, of course. It's so fast, and I think the national TV networks, whether you watch CNN or ESPN or Fox, they acknowledge Twitter more than any other social media platform. Facebook is nice for social stuff, or like saving the date or showing a picture, and, of course, Instagram, but Twitter seems like it's the media king right now. Talking to Dave Johnson at Greg Bick on Twitter. Dave, all right, let's talk about the Wizards. Made the postseason last year, and you look at who they beat in the playoffs last year, Toronto, and now the Wizards are 23-28, and it just seems like 51 games in, they're still trying to find themselves. Got Utah on Alumni Day coming up, and it's funny, the Wizards have had a lot of different coaches since 1980, but still, Gene Shue, Casey Jones, and Mata had the best decade a long, long time ago. And, of course, the Wizards have been relevant by making the playoffs the last couple of years. But what's gone wrong this year? Is it too late, or can they turn it around?
Well, no, they can turn around. I mean, there's an old cliche about, well, we don't use injuries as an excuse. Well,
sure.
I'm sorry. In this case, injuries really have defined this season. The Wizards have lost more man hours than any other team. And in a sport like basketball, if you're consistently without two of your five starters, which has been the case for the Wizards, whether it's been a Bradley Beal or Marcin Gortat misses a few games, or Chris Humphries was an original starter at the start of this season, and he goes down. Otto Porter replaces him, and he goes down. I've often said that it would have been nicer, a better situation for the Wizards if they just lost one player and had to go the whole season without that player, whoever that player was. Instead, with the Wizards situation, they'll lose two players, get a couple players back, lose two more players. It really is. There's just, if you think about your own workplace, and a basketball team is a workplace, and if every day something was changing in the role that you were going to do, it'd be hard to develop any kind of consistency. If one day you were running the cash register and the next day you were flipping the burgers, it'd be hard to develop any kind of rhythm. And that's why, this team is capable of beating San Antonio, of winning on the road at Cleveland, of winning on the road at Chicago, of winning on the road at Houston, but is also capable of a 4-game losing streak. And that's why typically we've seen situations where when they've had 4-game winning streaks, and sudden they're followed by 2 or 3 game losing streaks because it took so much effort to accomplish that 4-game winning streak. Now suddenly you're paying for it in the subsequent games, and I remember Jared Dudley making a comment after one game. I can't remember the last time I played 47 minutes, and see, this is where injuries do define your season, where you can't practice, where you only have 8 healthy players, and that's not an excuse. That's the reality. That's an explanation. And I think there's a difference between excuses and explanations, and it simply put, you are what your record says you are, as the old cliche goes, or somebody once said. And the Wizards very much are a 23-28 team. They're a team that hasn't been able to develop any consistency in rhythm. They show flashes of potential, but flashes of weakness. And you have it all up, and you have a team right now that starts the second half, and it's even less than that. There's only 31 games left, with a big challenge to try to make the playoffs. I think it's 3 games out, so it's certainly very doable, but it's far from guaranteed.
Right, especially you mentioned the team is tired. They have a nice break here, but Utah, Detroit, Miami right in a row, and of course much maligned, of course, in trying to keep the energy going up. And of course, you have to do it as well as a broadcaster. But going back to what you said as far as the radio party, I guess that kind of brings you and Glenn a little joy, because an 82-game season is tiring not only for the ownership, the management, and the players, but the broadcasters too. And when you can get some humor involved in a season like this, it really helps everybody.
Well, it makes I think it reminds me of my days as a disc jockey. In some ways, this interacting with Twitter fans is like the old days when I would send a record out to somebody who was listening or whatever. But it makes it it's enjoyable and fun where you experience it, and that's through the wins. It adds to the wins, and also through the losses. Sometimes there's dark humor, sometimes there's gallows humor, and as I always say, we get through this together, and that's what it's all about. Being a fan, it means that you have a passion about something, that you care about something. The old saying, there's only 2 times that you're really alive, whether you're laughing or whether you're crying, and that's what supporting a team will do for you. It'll make you laugh and feel great joy, and it'll also make you feel like crying because, boy, it's frustrating. So, all seasons in every sport are long. The baseball, whether it's hockey, I just talked about soccer, even the NFL. I mean, if you're 17-0 or 16-0, it seems like it went by too fast. But if you're in another situation, it can even seem very long. But it's just a journey, and you get through it together and go through. You ride the highs and lows, and the ability with what we do with the hashtag radio party. We invite people to follow us at Dave J Sports. Is that we help you through that, and that's on both ends of the spectrum, the joy and the sadness.
Yeah, you're right, because like the NFL, I mean, you could be out of the playoffs by the end of September. That's not necessarily the case for baseball or the NBA or the NHL because the seasons are so long and so forth. But you look at the last several coaches the Wizards have had in Hamilton and Collins and Jordan, Tapscott, and of course Interim, and of course the late Flip Saunders. What is Randy Whitman's status? He's made the postseason 2 years in a row. Of course, back in the day they made it, I think, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, 5, 6, 7, and 8. They all made it those years as well. Then there's a big gap for the Wizards. What is Whitman's status? Does he still have the drive and enthusiasm about this team?
Yeah, no, there's no question. I don't think it's, again, people from the outside, anytime there's any kind of losing or, well, it's time to get rid of the coach or whatever, and that happens in every sport. But look, every somebody once wrote a book about the Duke Blue Devils season, and they called it a season as a lifetime, and it really is. And you go through so many spectrums, as I just talked about, various emotions, and you've got to, every situation is different. One team that loses 4 straight is not the same circumstance as another team that loses 4 straight. There's an argument to be made for certain teams in certain situations where there's a losing streak, and you realize, wait a minute, the coach just no longer has the room, and the players are no longer responding. And I think about a great story, not a great story, it's a sad story for Glenn Hanlon, who was the coach of the Capitals before Bruce Boudreau, and I always remember talking to George McPhee, the general manager, about this, and Glenn Hanlon had actually come to George McPhee before he was let go and said, I'm getting a sense that, I don't have the guys anymore. And George said, well, just hang in there because we got a homestand and things can turn around. And that's literally the way things can happen. Unfortunately, the first game of that homestand, they ended up losing. And the next day, it was George and Glenn understood it, just like, I've got to make a change. And this is where we are now. And, of course, they brought in Bruce Boudreau that season, and the team started to respond. But these are not players that, in general, in any situation in professional sports, that purposely will tune out a coach or not respond. And in the case of Randy Whitman, this is not about tuning a coach out or not responding. As I just documented, it's they're kind of all in this together. It's a struggle to find some consistency, and as many people have said, Randy Whitman's done some of his best coaching this year because of the circumstances where all of a sudden Otto Porter is the center. Think about that. Otto Porter is the center, and yet you're still having winning games where every night you don't know who's in the lineup. So the case with Randy Whitman is he's still very much committed, obviously, to this job, and the players, to him, it's not about him losing the team. It's about getting the team consistently on the court, and then you get a fair judge of what this team is all about. So every circumstance is different. One team's 4-game losing streak is not the same as another team's 4-game losing streak. So, Randy Whitman is very much in it. It's not about there's not a worry about his job. There's just a worry about winning games right now as a team, and that's the challenge they face. And again, the players of today don't think about why the team was losing in 2009 because they weren't here.
Right.
And every team goes through, if you look at it, a lot of coaches.
Yeah, especially in hockey.
General. So it's not just Randy Whitman. I think is the longest tenured right now in the Eastern Conference, unless I'm missing something. So he's been the coach since 2012, and really the point and hope is that it's much longer because this is a team that just the last 2 seasons really started to show what it's capable of, and they're probably a John Wall without getting broken hand last year, in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and they were supposed to be an Eastern Conference Finals
Dave, we're running against the clock here at the bottom of the hour. Can you hold on for a few minutes during the news break? Come back for a few more minutes? Okay. Yep. All right, this is Sports Scene every Wednesday, 12 to 1 on News Talk 1650, tunein.com. Type in WHKT with Ken Johnson, Greg Bicouvaris up until 1 o'clock. Stay tuned. Ken will have a break. We'll be back after these messages with Dave Johnson.
And we're looking for decreasing cloudiness as we head into the rest of the afternoon, a high of 50 today. Partly cloudy tonight, a low of 35. Mostly sunny skies tomorrow with a high of 42. Mostly sunny Friday, 50. Partly cloudy Saturday, 65. And mostly sunny Sunday, a high of 66 degrees. News is next. Stay tuned for more of Sports Scene on AM 1650. It's 12:30.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. Secretary of State John Kerry says there is increasing evidence of militarization by China in the South China Sea. Kerry describes that as a serious concern. The temporary altar where the Pope is celebrating an open-air mass in Mexico today is right up against the U.S.-Mexico border, the skyline of El Paso, Texas, clearly visible. Federal prosecutors say investigators are combing through an Oregon wildlife refuge that was occupied for almost 6 weeks by an armed group. Says they discovered firearms, explosives, and trenches that were dug near artifacts. On Wall Street, stocks trading sharply higher. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up about 240 points. The S&P 500 index trading 31 points higher, and the Nasdaq Composite Index is up 91 points. More details at srnnews.com.
Do you have a family member who's getting older and can no longer be safely left alone? With Visiting Angels America's Choice in Senior Home Care, your parents and older family members can continue living at home and not have to move into a nursing home. Experienced, compassionate caregivers provide assistance in hygiene, meal preparation, and light housework up to 24 hours per day at affordable rates. To restore your family's peace of mind, call Visiting Angels toll-free today at 877-374-LIVE or at visitingangels.com.
This February, prepare to witness the miracle that changed the world forever.
The Nazarene said he'd rise again after 3 days.
Through the eyes of a non-believer. Risen, starring Joseph Fiennes.
The tomb is sealed, guarded with your life.
The most important manhunt in history was just beginning.
The body has vanished. His tomb is empty.
Who knows him? You tell me.
Risen, rated PG-13, may be inappropriate for children under 13. In theaters February 19th. For tickets and showtimes, go to risen-movie.com.
When it comes to automobile service in Hampton Roads, Fink's Car Care is the destination locals have counted on for decades. Family owned and operated, they specialize in transmission service, oil changes, state inspection, radiator service, tires alignments, and showcase Win automotive products. Fink's does it all. Military and senior discounts are available. Find them on Facebook and visit them on South Military Highway in Chesapeake and Victory Boulevard in Portsmouth, Monday through Saturday. For more, log on to finkscarcare.com and call 545-3573 today.
Mi Hogar is your restaurant for the finest Mexican cuisine in Hampton Roads. At Mi Hogar, everything is prepared fresh in a casual atmosphere. Enjoy traditional favorites such as quesadillas, tacos, burritos, and fajitas, as well as refreshing beverages. Mi Hogar has 2 locations, 4201 Granby Street in Norfolk and 801 North Battlefield Boulevard in Chesapeake. Call ahead at 640-7705. At Mi Hogar, there is something for everyone.
Now back to Greg Bicouvaris and Sports Scene in the Hampton Roads Online Mall.com studio.
Gotta love this old school bumper music right here. New school, old school, we covered all on Sports Scene every Wednesday, 12 to 1. At Greg Bick on Twitter, gjbtv.com. Hit the YouTube link. The premier buffet in Hampton Roads is open. Tokyo Grill and Buffet. Indulge in this all-you-can-eat extravaganza, which includes Chinese, Japanese, hibachi, sushi, and American food, as well as fruit and dessert, too. Tokyo Grill and Buffet is ideal for every occasion, with lunch at only $6.39, dinner at $9.39, and Sunday all day is $9.99. Great prices, located at 49 West Mercury Boulevard in Hampton, and they have takeout as well. See you at Tokyo Grill and Buffet today, and don't forget, on February 25th, the lunch buffet for the grand opening special is only $3.99 for lunch that day. So save the date for Tokyo Grill and Buffet. Save the date each Wednesday for the best back-to-back talk shows in Hampton Roads. Sports Scene at 12, followed by Sports Philosophy at 1. Both heard on News Talk 1650 and on TuneIn.com by typing WHKT in the search box. Depend on it. Talking to Dave Johnson for a few more minutes from the Wizards. And Dave, you look at around the NBA this year, it's always, you hear about Cleveland and Toronto's really played well since they lost to you guys last year in the playoffs. Then, of course, Golden State, the Spurs, and OKC. So, and one thing about the Wizards, I know a lot of the fans rely on you guys so much on the radio and Comcast Sportsnet. They don't get a whole lot of national TV play other than 1 or 2 games or a few games by ESPN. They don't get much national TV play.
Yeah, I mean, it's been more in recent years with the playoffs in the last couple of years. But it's one of those things where I don't think that impacts. If they start to win again this year, I think that'll start to pick up. And certainly, I think we had a couple games that were initially national TV games, and with the record not being what they were hoping it was going to be, I think they may have been dropped. But to be honest with you, I'm doing that off the top of my head. I'm not even sure about that. Mm-hmm. I mean, right now the Wizards they're trying to crack into that level, but they're not in the level of a Cleveland or Oklahoma City or certainly a Golden State, where you've got Kobe Bryant's daughters demanding that their dad take a picture of them with Steph Curry. So That's like with any sport where to get more attention, you have to win more consistently. And right now, that's not what's happening with the Wizards.
Talking to Dave Johnson right here, of course, and of course they're looking to turn around the 2016 season. Of course, they've got Utah, Detroit, Miami coming up, and one thing the Wizards have always done under the past ownership and the new ownership is honor the alumni. They're going to do that very soon.
Yeah, no, we've been. It's really something with Ted Leonsis, and even before they pull him, where we bring back the certain players. But it was really under Ted Leonsis that the Wizards Bullets Alumni Association was created. So throughout the season, we've had players back, and this has been going on every season, not just this season. Just recently it was a great thrill. We had a chance to visit with Earl Monroe and Terry Ditchinger, who goes all the way back to playing with the Baltimore Bullets in 1963, and Bernard King. We recently had. Dudley Bradley, everyone having an association, no matter how long or short. Dudley Bradley had a brief career. He's from Baltimore, played with the Wizards. I know we've got some players coming back this week. So it's, again, they're while the Wizards have not had have not been the most consistently successful team. Having said that, this is still a team that has done something that many teams in the NBA have never done, and that's won a title. And I don't care if it was way back in 1978. The point is, a lot of NBA franchises out there that don't have a title to point to, and so this is a great franchise that's had some. I just mentioned Earl Monroe, whether it was Gus Johnson, Elvin Hayes, Wes Unseld. You go right down the list, some amazing greats in NBA history, and we certainly hope right now with John Wall and Bradley Beal, they're really just babies in their NBA careers, and we hope one day we're talking about them in the same light as others as past champions.
I alluded to earlier, the Wizards did make the postseason in 5, 6, 7, and 8. Why the gap? They had some toxic players. You know who I'm talking about, especially. I'm not going to go into
it's a situation where, again, it's like any workplace.
Sure.
And they had a good run, and they were hoping. The reality is, Gilbert Arenas was never the same after his knee injury. And Gilbert Arenas was an elite scorer. Gilbert Arenas was something that few people in this league could do then and can do now, and that's a player who could average 30 points a game. In his prime, he could average 30 points a game. And so the franchise was built around that because that's a special talent. And it's just a shame that knee injury happened, and he never was the same after that, and we never really got to see. And there's another player that comes back and visits, Antoine Jameson, and it's a great regret for him that as he said, he would have loved to see how the story would have played out, had they been able to stay healthy and stay together, because it's said that you need a core of 3 in your starting lineup that are really elite all-star type players. Well, you certainly have that with Gilbert Arenas, Caron Butler, and Antoine Jameson as part of the big 3, for lack of a better description. And it just never was the same after Gilbert had that knee injury. And so then you've got to rebuild, and that's what the Wizards had to do. And rebuilding is a process where you're effectively, starting over. And during that process, you're going to go through 2 or 3 lean years while you develop players, build players, trade players, and that's what the Wizards did. Basically started over in 2010. And really by 2013, they were a winning team. So that's really not that bad a gap. And now it's about making a third straight playoff.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of different coaches, but the ownership and management, Ernie's been there for a long, long time. And I want to ask you a couple of questions. There was some talk about bringing the Bullets name back. I'm glad the Wizards have the uniforms like they did kind of back in the day when Wes played and Phil Chenier. I never understood the blue and gold they had back in the mid part of the decade. Never understood that.
Well, it was just they were going to a new building in the mid '90s, and they made they switched both franchises' colors the Capitals and actually the Wizards. The Bullets were never in that color. It was when they changed the name from Bullets to Wizards. I mean, it's been documented that the reason for the name change was at the time, Bullets were a punchline, and we can revisit history if we want, but many of the same people that are now saying, I wish we had the Bullets name back, are the same people that were making snide comments and jokes about, DC murder capital of the world, and look at this, their team's called the Bullets. And that was a very real climate in the 90s where the team's name was made fun of, not only in Washington, but on a national landscape. Now, Washington is no longer the murder capital of the world, thankfully. The city has come a long way in 25 years, but that was the reason for the name change. And the colors are back, red, white, and blue for both the Capitals and Wizards. And the Wizards are not the only franchise, or Capitals for that matter, that have altered colors over the years, but I think it's a good situation that they're back to the red, white, and blue. Dave, all the best, my friend. Go ahead and plug any Twitter or radio you want to. I always enjoy seeing you and Glenn, and hope to see you at a Wizards game later this season. Look forward to it. You can connect with us at Dave J Sports, and check us out at dailywisdom.com if you want to find out more about the Wizards Radio Network, and we hope to bring Wizards Radio to Virginia Beach. We've got listeners down there in Roanoke and Richmond, and we want to keep spreading the Wizards gospel. Absolutely. All right. Stay healthy, my friend, and we look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you so much, Dave. Sounds good. All the best. All the best to you, too, as well. Dave Johnson, the voice of the Wizards. And, Ken, that's a grind for these radio announcers, especially for baseball, hockey, and basketball compared to football. Football is once a week, but the NBA, look at their schedule. They play Utah, Detroit, Miami 3 nights in a row, and Marv Albert's not doing the NCAA basketball tournament this year because he doesn't want to do 4 games in one day. I don't blame him. He's in his 70s, and to announce 1 game a day is tough, let alone 4, but the grind of a radio announcer on the road is grueling. Get your frequent flyer miles in real fast. Yes, absolutely. All right, this is Sports Scene every Wednesday, 12 to 1 on News Talk 1650. A locals tradition is CP Shuckers with locations on Shore Drive and Pacific Avenue. People love their prime rib, seafood, and much more. And, of course, they showcase NASCAR. They got the big Daytona 500 this Sunday. Major League Baseball is coming up. NHL, NBA, college, basketball, of course, golf, soccer, tennis. Like both locations on Facebook and log on to cpshuckers.com. Go by and see Matt and Mark. Eat some delicious lunch and dinner. Of course, great seafood, burgers. They got it all at CP Shuckers. Great appetizers and soups. The premier restaurant in Virginia Beach is CP Shuckers. We'll come back with highlights and a lot more What Teased Me Off and some special other guests right here on Sports Scene. Thank you each and every week for listening right here to 1650 a.m. during 12 to 1.
The place to go for U.S. rare coins is Newcastle Coins and Collectibles in Chesapeake. They specialize in U.S. and silver and gold coins and provide free verbal offers and are always buying U.S. rare coins. Newcastle Coins and Collectibles, 681 North Battlefield Boulevard in Chesapeake, across from Chesapeake General, open Tuesday through Saturday and always online at newcastlecollectibles.com. Call 757-609-3633, 757-609-3633 for Newcastle Coins and Collectibles. Now back to Greg Bicouvaris and Sports Scene in the Hampton Roads Online Mall.com studio. It's now time for Greg's Highlights, presented by Hampton Roads Online Mall.com.
All right, Kenny, thank you so much. Like always, my good friend, this is highlights right here at gjbtv.com. Hit the YouTube link on the homepage for archive shows, so many great ways to connect. Enjoy Dave Johnson right there, the voice of the Washington Wizards who made the postseason last year, NBA on the radio. Grew up watching the NBA every Sunday as a kid, still love the NBA, and of course college basketball and so many sports. Save the date each Wednesday for Sports Scene from 12 to 1. HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com, folks. Browse, shop, visit. Go to the coupon section and get some great ideas for restaurants. Start your weekend ahead early at the retail section, services, marketplace, restaurants, and, of course, the homepage. You see longsbilliards.com right there on HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com. Of course, and now let's welcome right here with us on 1650 AM, the Sports Information Director at Norfolk State, to give us an update on their big ESPNU game Monday, as well as the MEAC tournament, Matt Michalec. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing great, Greg. How are you?
Good, my friend. Of course, that's a big night anytime that ESPN comes to town. Of course, we were a big part of that this past Saturday, freezing outside at Hampton University for Sports Center on the road. And of course, they were there Monday night for their showcase game. And, of course, the MEAC will be at Norfolk State front and center with the ESPNU game Monday night, February 22nd. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Our next home game, Monday evening. Of course, the women play at 6 o'clock. It's always a men's and women's doubleheader. And then the men's game will be broadcast at 9 o'clock live on ESPNU. We'll be facing against Coppin State. Just a couple games left in the regular season for us, so it's a pretty important game for seeding as we head into the MEAC tournament, and always fun to have the TV cameras here and get to showcase our team on a national level as well.
Right, and of course, Norfolk State did make the NCAA tournament a few years ago, right around 500 this year, but they're 9-2 in the MEAC, and that's all important. Them and HU are right there at it, back and forth.
Yeah, it's been a good race so far. Hampton a little ahead of us right now. They play one extra game, so they're 10-2 in the conference. We're 9-2, as you mentioned. So it'll be a fun battle over these next couple weeks to see who ends up getting the top spot there. Hopefully it'll be the Spartans here, and of course we still play Hampton one more time as well coming up on the last night of the regular season on Thursday night, the 4th. But regardless of whoever gets the top seed, it always boils down to those few days in the tournament in March, which, of course, will be back at Scope again this year.
All right, Greg Bicouvaris talking to Matt Michalec right here on 1650 AM, tunein.com, type in WHKT. Also, want to thank our listeners listening on radio.net as well. Matt, let me ask you this, a few things, too. Having the tournament right there in your own backyard, not even a few miles away from you, how much does that boil Robert Jones, especially when your team gets close, but you can't win the tournament? Because you have every opportunity. Not many schools have a chance to go to the postseason in their own backyard, really, without really very few expenses. There's really no excuses other than putting together a good run. You would think if this is the year, I believe this is year 4 of the MEAC in Norfolk, the final, this has to be the year this year.
Well, we certainly hope so, and certainly I think our coaching staff and supporters here would think we have the team to do it. I think maybe the first year that the tournament was held in the Scope, which was back in 2013. I think there may have been a little bit of added pressure there. We actually had an undefeated regular season in the conference that year. We were 16-0 going into the Scope, as you mentioned, right down the street here from our campus. And I think there was maybe a little bit of pressure there. We ended up losing our first game of the tournament that year in the quarterfinals. But I think the players and coaches are used to it being there now. That they like the fact that our fans can certainly make the easy trip just down the street to watch us play. So, as you said, no excuses at this point.
No, this is year 4. The MEAC tournament will be March 7th through March 12th at the Norfolk Scope. MEAC has really risen. And, of course, looking forward to March Madness. It really is a great showcase that Saturday because Old Dominion normally is done by then, and they're nowhere around because their tournament's, not even close to Hampton Roads. And really, Norfolk State and HU are pretty much it. And Wayne Mary's postseason looks like it will go to Baltimore, depending on how they do, and that's pretty much a one-bid league as well. You were part of that NCAA tournament as well. Switching gears to Latrell Scott, went 4-7 last year, opens up against Elizabeth City State, and of course 2 games in a row that are going to be very difficult on the road at Richmond, at William Mary, always tough postseason teams. He coached at Richmond, and of course, he's got the right attitude going, but he's got a tough block to start September with. He
does, although I think he'll certainly take this year's schedule over last year's, where we had to go on the road to Marshall and to Rutgers and to Old Dominion as well. I mean, Richmond and William Mary are always very quality FCS football teams, but at least we don't have to get on a bus for 8 to 10 hours to go face those teams, and it's a very travel-friendly schedule for our team and for our fans this year as well, only having to play 3 games outside of the state, and you'll get a good idea early after those Richmond and William Mary games of where this team will stand, so that's certainly a positive to it.
Yeah, one thing about September, it's about as transparent as it gets. And leave us with this Amber Brown story. It really put Norfolk State on the map, and really the whole community came together for that young lady.
Yeah, it's certainly been quite an eye-opening experience for everybody. It certainly has affected everyone that's been involved with NSU, from coaches, athletes, administrators, even to our fans who have really been touched by what's happened, and certainly we're very encouraged by what's happened over the last couple of weeks that Amber is now out of the hospital after being in the coma last month doing much better. She's already talking about wanting to come back onto the team next year if her health and God are on her side there. And it's certainly been a difficult thing for us to see her go through, and certainly for her and her family to go through the health scare that she had. But she's doing much better now, and looks like she's gonna come out well on the other side of it.
All right, wrapping up here with Matt Michalec, Sports Information Director at Norfolk State. On Sports Scene, Greg Bicouvaris, glad you're with us up until 1 o'clock. And, of course, go ahead and promote any Twitter handles that you want to promote for the Spartans.
Certainly, our main Twitter presence is at NSU Spartans. We also have a lot of team-specific ones as well, which you can find those all on our website as well for baseball, which is right around the season as well. Basketball, football, and a number of our sports programs are on there. But Twitter at NSU Spartans, Facebook, Norfolk State Athletics, and we're on YouTube and Instagram at NSU Athletics.
What was the talk? I was part of the Sports Center on the Road last Saturday, probably the biggest national TV presence for 2 hours in the morning in the history of Hampton Roads. Even though it was not at Norfolk State, it was at HU, your rival, still that benefited the MEAC tremendously. Yeah,
we certainly think it will. Lacrosse, obviously, a growing sport in a lot of areas, and Hampton's certainly trying to blaze a trail there for the Division I HBCUs. And anytime the conference can get any kind of a TV presence, whether it's the Sports Center on the road last weekend or basketball games like ours coming up this Monday night, that's certainly a positive for everybody involved.
Yep, and the MEAC final as well. Matt, all the best to you, my friend, and, of course, enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you Monday night.
Sounds great. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you. My pleasure. Matt Michalec right there from Norfolk State. And, of course, it's all about the local schools, the local communities, just like we talked about the local retail businesses, Ken. It's all, we grew up in Hampton Roads, and we take pride in the schools in this area.
We got some good stuff here.
Yes, we do, Kenny. Of course, you're part of that good stuff, but who knows, Kenny? You might be part of what teased me off a little bit later, too.
It wouldn't be the first time.
All right, of course. All right, let's get to Saffron Mediterranean Cuisine. Features specials of the month: lamb shanks, gyro platter, gyro sandwich. Go by and see Daoud. Also, great desserts, cookies, baklava, yum, yum, yum. Falafel, ABC license on. Great lunch and dinner 7 days a week. You ask where are they located. They're at Newport News at 10417 Warwick Boulevard in Hilton Village in Newport News. Delicious shish kebabs, great rice, great side dishes, hot and cold appetizers, entrees, seafood, kids menu, stews, assorted wraps, and, of course, open daily for lunch and dinner 7 days a week, 11 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. Dine-in, carry-out, and catering. They even got falafel, too. Mention Greg. That's all you got to do. Mention Greg and save $10 off. Who doesn't want to get some discounts for lunch, especially during all the high prices you see at the grocery stores these days? Saffron Mediterranean Cuisine, 10417 Warwick Boulevard in Hilton Village. We'll come back with what teased me off after these messages.
When it comes to automobile service in Hampton Roads, Fink's Car Care is the destination locals have counted on for decades. Family owned and operated, they specialize in transmission service, oil changes, state inspection, radiator service, tires, alignments, and showcase Win automotive products. Fink's does it all. Military and senior discounts are available. Find them on Facebook and visit them on South Military Highway in Chesapeake and Victory Boulevard in Portsmouth, Monday through Saturday. For more, log on to finkscarcare.com and call 545-3573 today.
Nor'easter season is here, so don't get all wet. Protect your house. Call Crawl Space Door Systems at 363-0005. Reduce your flood insurance, reduce the threat of mold and insects, and save energy. Crawl Space Doors, air vents, flood vents, vent covers, and fans can help you stay dry or get you dry quickly. Contact Crawl Space Doors for more information at 363-0005 or online at crawlspacedores.com. Stay dry, my friends.
Now back to Greg Bicouvaris and Sports Scene in the Hampton Roads Online Mall.com studio.
Rack City chick, 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 10, 20s and the 50s chick.
Kenny, this is not what you used to play at K94, was it?
Well, not at first. After 1985, it kind of changed around a little bit.
Win Evers never tried to sneak this in either, did he?
Well, not unless he was told to.
I mean, I could listen to Win all afternoon. I was a kid listening to Win. It was like a rainy weekday. You were a kid listening to K94. Or my friend the Bull back in the day when that station was relevant. And really, just those were the good old days, weren't they, Kenny?
Oh gosh, yes, absolutely. There's been nothing like it since. There wasn't much like it before.
And there really isn't like it now.
No, there's nothing like it now, unfortunately. I occasionally, for the millennial set,
Yeah.
I'll play some old cuts from either K94 or even the old WGH and WNOR when it was all top 40. Mm-hmm. And they are slack-jawed in amazement. Said, wow.
Good music.
That sounds like so much fun. They're having a good time.
Right.
It's so boring now.
Yes.
Yes. It is.
We have so much social media, too. All right, before we get to what teased me off, introducing lunch at Outback every bloomin' day with your favorites like Aussie tacos made with chicken, fish, or steak, or try the new ribeye melt top with bacon. Yum, you gotta love bacon. Cheddar and garlic aioli, all in a toasted artisan bun with over 70 lunch combinations started at only $6.99. It's now lunch at last at Outback, 1255 Fordham Drive in Virginia Beach, the best Outback in the country. Phone number is 523-4832. They got Call them about Restaurant Week at 523-4832. Open 7 days a week. Lunch, dinner, a little late night. Go there and watch March Madness next month. And, of course, takeout service as well. And, of course, delicious desserts and appetizers at Outback at 1255 Fordham Drive in Virginia Beach. Kenny, let's get to what teased me off.
What tees you off? Presented by GJBTV.com.
Ken, look at me real carefully. Outdated anything.
Yeah, some things just don't ever go away.
Of course. Ken, how about these things that the big malls or parking lots? These yellow or beige concrete markings in parking lots, some cannot see them, and when you try to see them, usually puncture your tires going over them. What's the point of them?
I have no idea.
There's
no consistency or
right.
And there's no real federal law regarding those things. You have to have a certain amount of parking spaces, and curbs have to be painted yellow in certain places.
Wow.
But other than that, you just kind of do whatever you want, and sometimes it just doesn't make sense.
Like little end markings. I know. You're exactly right. Ken, fast food restaurants that try to sell everything under the sun when really most people just go for burgers and fries.
Yeah. Burger King is now going to be doing hot dogs, which will be interesting to see. I mean, some places have been doing fine with hot dogs, so wish them all the best of luck, and who knows, it may take off like a rocket.
Of course, our weather in Hampton Roads is bipolar, but when you enter a building with no heat or no AC and they serve the public, that's not good.
Or if they go overboard, when it's really, really cold outside and everyone's got their parkas on and their Nanook of the North attire on, they have the heat turned up to 90 because the employees are cold. Well, the customers coming in are going to be roasting. Come on.
Exactly. We'll get through these pretty quickly here. High school and college players who copy pro athletes in celebrations want to take the last shot. Just be yourself, please. You're kids. People not covering up when they're coughing or sneezing, Kenny.
Oh, yeah. That's the worst.
I'll take this very clearly about re-election. I knew Meyer Obendorf. I interviewed Meyer Obendorf. Kenny used to do radio shows with Meyer Obendorf. The current mayor is no Meyer Obendorf.
By no stretch of the imagination.
Exactly. Mitch McConnell talking about the Supreme Court right after Scalia passed away. Let it evolve and rest. Working out in the cold for any reason, Kenny. The word bro. Really? The word bro? I mean, how educated you have to use that word?
Overused.
Great guest today, Dave Johnson, the voice of the Wizards, Matt Michalec from Norfolk State. As always, great sponsors. For more, go to gjbtv.com, all powered by Hampton Roads Online Mall.com. Always a pleasure working with Kenny each and every week. Don't forget the USCAA selection show, 11 o'clock next Wednesday morning prior to Sports Scene. For Ken Johnson, I'm Greg Bicouvaris. Don't forget, gjbtv.com. Hit the YouTube link for archive shows. Happy Wednesday. We'll talk to you soon.
AM 1650 WHKT Portsmouth, 1 p.m.